Hello students, I am Neetu Sharma and I teach English in Government High School Kamalpur, District Sangrur. Children, in the last lecture we have already done the recitation of the poem A Ballad of Sir Pertab Singh. Just to recapitulate, let's have a few questions to find out what you have understood. Let me know the name of the poet. Yes, Sir Henry Newbolt. My next question is, what is a ballad? Very good. A ballad is a form of verse, often a narrative set to music. Ballads began as folk songs and continue to be used today in modern music. Ballads do not have the same formal consistency as some other poetic forms, but one can look for certain characteristics that identify a ballad like simple language, stories, repetition, dialogues, and third-person objective narration. Very good, children. As I have already told you, this poem has 81 lines. So, we will discuss 1 to 8 lines first. One to 8 lines are: in the first year of him that first was emperor and king, a rider came to the rose-red house, the house of Pertab Singh. Young he was and an Englishman, and a soldier hilt and heel, and he struck fire in Pertab's heart as the steel strikes on steel.
In these lines, the poet tells us how an Englishman came riding to the palace of Maharaja Pertab Singh of Jodhpur in the first year of his reign. Pertab Singh was a king of the Rajput clan and hence was also a soldier. Seeing the sword and boots of the English soldier, Pertab Singh is filled with passion as he recalls the sounds of a soldier's sword striking against another of its kind। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਵੀ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਤਾਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੇ ਮਹਿਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਣ ਬਾਰੇ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈ। ਕਵੀ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ ਸਿਪਾਹੀ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖ ਪ੍ਰਤਾਪ ਖੁਸ਼ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਲੋਹੇ ਦੇ ਸਟੀਲ ਨਾਲ ਟਕਰਾਉਣ ਤੇ ਚਿੰਗਾਰੀ ਬਲਦੀ ਹੈ, ਉਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ ਸਿਪਾਹੀ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖ ਕੇ ਪ੍ਰਤਾਪ ਨੂੰ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ।
On the basis of the above lines, let's discuss few questions. Who was Pertab Singh? Pertab Singh was the emperor of Jodhpur. He lived in the rose-red house. He did not believe in the caste system. Second question is, who came to the Pertab Singh's house? An English soldier came to Pertab Singh's house. What was the house called? The house was called Rose Red House. Fourth question, how long had Pertab Singh been the king? Answer, he was in the first year of his rule. Children, now let's discuss 9 to 12 lines of the poem. Beneath the morning stars they rode, beneath the evening sun. and their blood sank to them as they rode, that all good wars are won.
In these lines, the poet describes how Pertab Singh and his English friend rode horses together from morning till evening, and how they both believed that they had same kind of passion and interest. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਵੀ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਦੋਨੋਂ ਹੀ ਚੰਗੇ ਦੋਸਤ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ ਤੇ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਸਵੇਰੇ ਘੁੜਸਵਾਰੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ ਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਿਲ ਦੇ ਰਾਜ਼ ਖੋਲ੍ਹਦੇ ਹਨ।
On the basis of above lines, let's discuss few questions again. First question is, who were the riders? Pertab Singh and an English soldier were the riders. Second question, how did they feel while riding together? They felt very brave and happy. Third question, how did they feel about wars? They felt that all good wars are won. Now let's have a look upon line number 13 to 16. They told their tales of the love of women, their tales of east and west, but their blood sang that of all their loves, they loved a soldier best.
In these lines, the poet says that Pertab Singh and the English riders spoke of the women of their native lands, that is, of the women belonging to the Asia as well as to the Europe. But they both loved a soldier more than they loved any woman. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਵੀ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਦੋਨੋਂ ਹੀ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਕਈ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ, ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵਧੀਆ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿਪਾਹੀ ਹੀ ਪਸੰਦ ਹੈ।
Now let's come to the question, how did the two comrades spend their days? The two comrades spent their days together. They would go riding in the morning and in the evening. They told each other stories of love and adventure. Thus, they passed their days happily. Children, now let's read lines from 17 to 24. So ran their joy the allotted days, till at the last day's end. The shadows stilled the rose-red house and the heart of Pertab's friend. When morning came, in narrow chest the soldier's face they hid, and over his fast dreaming eyes shut down the narrow lid.
In these lines, the poet says that Pertab Singh and his friend had a good time together, till at last his friend passed away. He was laid in his coffin and his eyes were closed. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਵੀ ਬੜੇ ਦੁੱਖ ਨਾਲ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰਤਾਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਤੇ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ ਸਿਪਾਹੀ ਦੀ ਦੋਸਤੀ ਉਦੋਂ ਖਤਮ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਦੋਂ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ ਸਿਪਾਹੀ ਦੀ ਮੌਤ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ।
Now let's read from line number 25 to 28. Three were there of his race and creed, three only and no more. They could not find to bear the dead, a fourth in all Jodhpur. In these lines, the poet says that 4 men were required to bear the coffin to the burial ground, but only 3 Englishmen were present. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਵੀ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ ਸਿਪਾਹੀ ਦਾ ਤਾਬੂਤ ਚੁੱਕਣ ਲਈ 4 ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਜੋਧਪੁਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਸਦੀ ਜਾਤੀ ਦੇ ਸਿਰਫ 3 ਸਿਪਾਹੀ ਹਨ। Now let's have a look upon the question answers. First question, whose race and creed has been referred to in these lines? The race and creed of the English soldier has been referred in these lines. Second question, who did they want to find and why? They wanted to find the fourth one to carry the bier. Third question, who was it that had died? It was the English soldier that had died. What was the problem that arose when the Englishman died? 4 men were needed to carry the Englishman's bier, but in Jodhpur they could find only 3 Englishmen. No one from the Hindu caste was supposed to carry the bier of a non-Hindu. Thus, a problem arose to find the fourth bearer. Now let's read from line 29 to 36. O Maharaj, of your good race, send us a sweeper here. A sweeper has no caste to lose, even by an alien buyer. What need, said Pertab Singh, and bowed his princely head. I have no caste, for I myself am bearing forth the dead. In these lines, the poet says that the 3 Englishmen asked the Maharaja to send a sweeper, for he could bear the coffin of a foreigner without losing his caste. However, Pertab Singh refused to do so, saying he would carry the coffin himself. ਤਿੰਨੋਂ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਤੋਂ ਤਾਬੂਤ ਚੁੱਕਣ ਲਈ ਇੱਕ ਸਫਾਈ ਕਰਮਚਾਰੀ ਦੀ ਮੰਗ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ, ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਮਨਾ ਕਰ ਖੁਦ ਤਾਬੂਤ ਚੁੱਕਣ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ. Now let's discuss the questions. What need does Pertab Singh refer to? It is the need of a fourth man to carry the bier. Who came forward to carry the bier? Pertab Singh himself came forward to carry the bier. Third question, whose bier was it? It was the bier of English soldier. Now let's read from line 37 to 40. O Maharaj, O passionate heart, be wise, bethink you yet, that which you lose today is lost till the last sun shall set.
In these lines, the 3 Englishmen try to convince the Maharaja to rethink his decision, for he will never have the chance to regain his caste. ਤਿੰਨੋਂ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ ਸਿਪਾਹੀ ਰਾਜੇ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਕਰਨ ਨਾਲ ਰਾਜਾ ਆਪਣੀ ਉੱਚ ਜਾਤੀ ਖੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ.
Now let's move to the line 41. God only knows, said Pertab Singh, that which I lose today, and without me no hand of man shall bear my friend away.
In these lines, Pertab Singh says that he will not be losing his caste, but only a dear friend that day, and that no one other than him will be the fourth one to bear the coffin. ਰਾਜਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤਿੰਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਉਸਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਾਤੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਗੋਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਪਿਆਰਾ ਮਿੱਤਰ ਖੋਇਆ ਹੈ ਅੱਜ. ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਉਸਦੇ ਦੋਸਤ ਦਾ ਤਾਬੂਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਚੁੱਕੇਗਾ.
Let's discuss the question. What had Pertab Singh lost? He had lost a dear friend. Second question, how did he feel over his loss? He felt very unhappy over the loss. What did he decide to do? He decided to carry his friend's bier himself. Children, now let's read from line 45 to 48. Stately and slow and shoulder high, in the sight of all Jodhpur, the dead went down by the rose-red steps, upheld by bearers four.
In these lines, the poet describes how the Maharaja took his place with the other pallbearers and carried his friend's coffin down the steps of the palace in an elegant manner, with all of the Jodhpur watching. इन्हां लाइनां विच कवि दसदा है कि किस तरह राजा पूरे जोधपुर सामने अपने दोस्त दा ताबूत चुकदा है.
Now let's read from line 49 to 52. When dawn relit the lamp of grief within the burning east, there came a word to Pertab Singh, the soft word of a priest. In these lines, the poet describes how Pertab Singh awoke with a heavy heart the next day and was called out by a priest. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਵੀ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਗਲੇ ਦਿਨ ਕੁਝ ਪੰਡਤ ਸਵੇਰੇ-ਸਵੇਰੇ ਰਾਜੇ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਣ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ. Now let's have a look upon line 53 to 56. He woke, and even as he woke, he went forth all in white, and saw the Brahmins bowing there in the hard morning light. In these lines, the poet describes how the Maharaja dressed himself in white garments and walked out to meet a group of Brahmins who were bowing before him. ਪ੍ਰਤਾਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਸ਼ੋਕ ਵਿੱਚ ਡੁੱਬਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਚਿੱਟੇ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਪਹਿਨ ਬ੍ਰਾਹਮਣਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਣ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਸਿਰ ਝੁਕਾਈ ਖੜੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਨ. Now let's have a look from line 57 to 62. Alas, O Maharaj, alas, O noble Pertab Singh, for here in Jodhpur yesterday befell a fearful thing.
In these lines, Brahmins told Maharaja that a terrible thing had happened to Jodhpur the previous day. Brahman ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਨ ਕਿ ਕੱਲ ਜੋਧਪੁਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਿਚਿੱਤਰ ਚੀਜ਼ ਘਟੀ ਹੈ.
Let's read from 63 to 69. Oh, here in Jodhpur yesterday a fearful thing befell. A fearful thing, said Pertab Singh. God and my heart know well. I lost a friend more fearful yet. When down these steps you've passed in the sight of all Jodhpur, you lose, O Maharaj, your caste. In these lines, the Maharaja says that it was indeed a terrible thing to lose his dear friend, but the priest reminded him that even more terrible was the fact that Maharaja had lost his caste before all of Jodhpur. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਹਾਰਾਜਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਦੋਸਤ ਦੀ ਮੌਤ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਵੱਡੀ ਤੇ ਦੁਖਦਾਇਕ ਘਟਨਾ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈ, ਜਦਕਿ ਬ੍ਰਾਹਮਣਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਜਾਤ ਦਾ ਖੋਣਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ. Children, let's read from line 70 to 73. Then leapt the light in Pertab's eyes, as the flame leaps in smoke. Though priest, thy soul hath never known the word thy lips have spoke. In these lines, the poet describes how Pertab Singh became angry and scolded the priest, saying that he spoke a lie. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰਤਾਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਪੁਜਾਰੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਡਾਂਟਦਾ ਹੈ. Now let's read from 74 to 81. My caste, know you there is a caste above my caste or thine. Brahmin and Rajput are but dust to that immortal line. Wide as the world, free as the air, pure as the pool of death, the caste of all earth's noble hearts is the right soldier's faith. In these lines, the Maharaja tells the priest that he is unaware of the fact that our humanity is above and beyond our caste identity. Both Brahmins and Rajputs are descended from the same ancestors. Moreover, all soldiers are bound by a bond that is sacred, and hence he has not lost anything by burying the body of his English friend. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਪੁਜਾਰੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਇਸ ਸੱਚ ਤੋਂ ਅਣਜਾਣ ਹਨ ਕਿ ਮਾਨਵਤਾ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਜਾਤ ਹੋਰ ਕੋਈ ਹੈ. ਬ੍ਰਾਹਮਣ ਰਾਜਪੂਤ ਸਭ ਉਸ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦੇ ਹੀ ਅੰਗ ਹਨ. ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਿਪਾਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਡੋਰ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਹਨ. Dear children, let's have a look upon the difficult words. A soldier hilt and heel. The Englishman was a complete soldier. Struck fire, won respect and love from Pertab. Their blood, both being soldiers, their blood evoked in them, sang common feelings of courage and bravery for a noble cause. Shadowed stilled, a deadly silence fell on the rose-red house of Pertab because of the death of his friend. Fast dreaming, eyes that had lost touch with the reality of the earth, lid, cover, creed, religious faith, alien, foreigner, buyer, a crude stretcher to carry the dead body, chest, coffin, dawn, morning, befell, happened or occurred, immortal line, noble and deathless race of men who live in their deeds. Children, now let's discuss the central idea of the poem. The caste system creates divisions in society. It is very harmful. We should rise above considerations of caste, color, and creed. The law of equality and brotherhood is very important in our life. Humanity is the only true caste. Children, now let's have a look upon the poetic devices present in the poem. First, rhyme scheme. If we divide this poem into units of 4 lines each, then each of those units would follow the same simple rhyme scheme, that is A, B, C, D. Metaphor. The poet uses the device of metaphor in the 3rd line when he compares the red color of Pertab Singh's palace with that of a rose. He again uses it in the 7th line when he compares Pertab Singh's passion with fire. He uses it once more in 19th line when compares death with the shadow. Simile. The poet uses the device of simile in the 78th and 79th lines when he compares the faith of soldiers to the wide world, the free air, and the pool of death. Children, hope you have understood the poem. Your homework for today is write down the summary of the poem. Thanks.